Hello and welcome to Andy Collier-talks cricket memorabilia. I was persuaded to do this site last week by a friend at work who said, Andy, you should really get a YouTube channel up and talk about cricket memorabilia. So here we are, starting first time, so welcome. The idea of the site is obviously to talk about cricket memorabilia and promote its popularity around the world. Hopefully we'll be on location, perhaps talking to other collectors about their collections all over England, and perhaps hopefully other people around the world can send me a video I can post on too. So I started collecting probably 30 years ago through a very fortunate find really, in a shed that was being cleared out, and the said photograph was of Don Bradman. A signed photograph of him found in the shed, and consequently that started me off on such a fantastic journey of interest in collecting, finding out things about the history of the game, and so on. So it's not too recently that photograph, or postcard form of photograph, was found out to be made by BDV Cigarettes, Godfrey Phillips in London, for the 1930 tour to England by Australia. Obviously Don Bradman's first tour. I've concentrated quite a bit on the Don Bradman side of things over the years, so I've got quite a bit to show on that, but I thought I'd keep it simple. There's many areas of cricket memorabilia to collect. You can start with photographs, postcards, books, bats, balls, clothing, menus. There is such a plethora of things to do, and it's just so interesting when you get started and finding out things about what you've collected. And of course, the association with famous players over the past is paramount to most collectors. For instance, I've got a pair of boots from Len Hutton, a pair of pads from Len Hutton, Kevin Peterson's boots. Not that he's a great fan of mine, but there we are, I've got a pair of his boots. So you can go in various directions, and once I started collecting, I soon found a passion for collecting about the ships that went to Australia and other parts of the world with the England cricketers. And the first one I bought was this one here, which was the 1924 side. Can't see that very well, but there we are. It's 1924 ship, Ormondy, that took the 1924 side to Australia. All fully signed by the team, and that in turn led to me writing a book about a year ago, called Across the Oceans, which is there, which I published 100 copies of, which details all the ships that went to Australia, that took the England players to Australia from 1861, which is the first tour on this is Great Britain, which you can see at Bristol. Go around and see what the conditions were like for those pioneering cricketers, which is quite an eye-opener, I have to say, especially when you go to the front of the ship and there's all the livestock there. So that led to that, which I made 100 copies, all sold. I've done 15 copies in the hardback form, which all sold as well, all over the world, so I was really proud of that. So that's a great thing for, well, it might be a sought after book now, so should be quite interesting. So that's what led me to that. So onwards and upwards, people kept telling me, well, you should go from the other way now, so I'm now starting Australia to England. There's obviously not so many ships involved in that. I think I've counted up to about 50 now, but in the England one, I found 112, so it's quite a nice thing. But obviously, when I wrote the book, I'm thinking not many people are going to want to read a book about cricket, just concerning ships. So I ended up doing the whole, every chapter, every tour, and then I had some of my memorabilia in it, or postcards and menus and things like that. So it ended up quite an interesting book with lots of little anecdotes from players in the old days, from Alfred Shaw and people like that, Julius Caesar. So it's a fascinating subject, especially if you concentrate on one thing. That's one thing about collecting. I've collected a lot of things, all sorts of things, but if you can just concentrate on one thing, you'll save a lot of room, and it'll keep the wife happy, because you won't take most of the house up. So there we are. But also on another note, my collecting started up a museum in Stow-on-the-Wold called the Cotswold Cricket Museum, which unfortunately after 4 years I had to close down through circumstances beyond my control. But it's a great shame that was, because people loved it. I had players come and talk in the evenings, and they had jazz nights there, and it was just fantastic, and it took me a long time to get over that. But we're back on track now. So I also a member of the Cricket Memorabilia Society. There is another society, the Cricket Society, all sorts, the Stamp Society or Philatelic Society. Who else is there? All sorts of societies. Statisticians. They generally talk about the inside leg measurement of all sorts of players who top the averages and all that sort of stuff, which is quite bizarre, but fair play to them. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. So a massive area to collect. So as I say, if you want any advice at all, just keep it simple, and say postcards are a great thing to collect. Keep it small. So we're okay. I mean, there's statues you probably see behind me. I've done one of my next things on the Don Bradman collecting was a little statue of Don made by Collier-talks. I think they've done about 40 of those, which I managed to collect most of. Another fascinating area. There's a china you can collect, black boy plates and things from Royal Dalton. They're a fascinating thing, and also they're quite expensive to buy. When they turn up at auction, they go for big money. That's one thing about collecting cricket memorabilia. I know you don't do it for the value of it, but in theory, if you buy correctly, you won't lose any money, and it could end up as your nice little pension pot. So, so the plan is probably once a week, perhaps maybe twice a week. See how we go to do one of these casts, these video casts. So go around and see who else has got the memorabilia and have a chat with them. So we've got David Frith just up the road, a big friend of mine. He's got one of the world's best collections. Obviously one of the world's most respected historians too. So hopefully we'll make it an interesting site for you, and I'll see you next time.